What's up, superhero fans? Welcome back to another installment of SUPES Disputes, the show where I sit down with producer, talent manager, industry insider, and mega fan Brad Lambert, and we come together to break down the most trending superhero news and the most divisive superhero topics. So today we have a huge show ahead of us because it's been a minute since our last episode, but now we're back in the studio. Me and Brad have so much to talk about, and we are so excited to get this crazy show on the road. We're going to start today by talking about Spider-Man Miles Morales. You guys have been seeing the Spider-Man Miles Morales content on my TikTok, on my Instagram, over here on YouTube. But it's time to talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales. Again, you guys know that I haven't had the privilege of getting my hands on a PlayStation 5, but Brad has, and he's played Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PlayStation 5. So Brad, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PlayStation 5?
It's the most beautiful game I've ever played, hands down. Without question, the detail, the graphics, the gameplay, the frame rate, everything that encompasses that game just makes it the best game I've played. And I think it was just an awesome entry point to next-gen gaming. I think it really shows us what's to come. And I mean, the future of this series now with a full year with the next-gen system and just getting even bigger and better, look at the photo mode that people are posting screenshots for. It looks like something out of a live action film. And
you've sent me pics and I'm just like, how? When did you turn into this master photographer overnight?
No, it's such a blast. I beat it very quickly. I put a lot of time into it. I really wanted to just kind of play around the next gen system and really dive into that world. And that is the reason why I got the PS5 without question. I can't say enough about it. If you have the opportunity to get the game, if you have the opportunity to get on a PS5, you have to experience it in true next gen form to really thoroughly appreciate it. But I think everyone's been happy with it, even on the PS4. So it just shows you the quality of game that Insomniac put together in Marvel Games, and just it's awesome. And I can't truly say enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, I got the chance to experience it on the PlayStation 4, completely grinded it. And even on the PlayStation 4, oh my gosh, I could easily say that, I don't think this is better. I don't think Spider-Man Miles Morales is better than the first Spider-Man game in terms of the story.
Correct.
But when it comes to gameplay and mechanics, it is the greatest superhero game of all time.
Facts.
You have, first of all, and this is something that I kind of want to get into, because going into the next game, which this game, it sets up another one, and they're building that universe. Insomniac Games knows what they're doing. They have a plan set, and it's beautiful to see them just lining up the ducks in the row and just knocking it out of the park with every single game that they put out. This Spider-Man Miles Morales game, this was a game that we didn't even know was coming out 7 months ago. Insomniac Games announced this game out of nowhere, dropped it for us here in 2020 with all of the delays we've had this year. Insomniac Games said, you guys don't even know what's coming, and we're gonna
exactly. But that's the Marvel way, is it not?
It is. It really is. So Insomniac Games dropped this game out of nowhere, and it was fantastic. The story, even though I don't think it's as good as the story of the first game, the story is still fantastic. The graphics are insane, and for me, the thing that really stood out is the not the graphics, the mechanics of the game, the gameplay, the way they differentiated Miles to Peter from the first game to this game. And man, I can't say enough about the game. You guys have seen me make so many videos over here on YouTube about it because it's just such an amazing game. And I finished the story a while back, and I'm still making videos about it because I'm just not done soaking up the goodness that is Spider-Man Miles Morales. But for me, one of the things that I'm actually worried about for the next game is how they're going to balance out Miles and Peter. Because after playing this game and after using Miles' Venom powers and his camouflage, it's like, damn, why would I choose Peter when I could just completely sauce up people by electrocuting everyone with those venomized powers that Miles has? So, Brad, moving forward, how do you think they're going to balance out both Miles and Peter in the next game? Because it seems like moving forward, they're going to have to do a co-op multiplayer story for the next game, because Miles and Peter are fighting side by side, and Insomniac Games knows that we want that, and I think that's where they're going to take this franchise, by bringing in multiplayer.
I mentioned that to you right after the game came out. I think there's a lot of potential for that co-op kind of gameplay, which we saw in Avengers, which
Hmm.
was a lot of fun. But this open world kind of GTA style co-op would just be a blast. I mean, swinging around the city with one of your friends, even doing the side missions, not even the main story mode, I think would just be a blast. And along the lines of what you said earlier in regards to how to make Peter better because the Venom powers made Miles so much fun to play is, I think the mechanics evolved, right? So
Yeah,
I went
for
back and
sure.
played the remastered after playing Miles, and I was so bored. I mean, the new Miles game on the PS5 made Spider-Man, the first game, look like an N64 game.
Wow.
That's how good Miles Morales is. And after we played Spider-Man, we were like, this is the best game we've ever
Yeah.
played because it was at the time. But
Hmm.
now Insomniac has found a way to level up again, and they've made their previous work look way less than, which I think is the point, right?
Hmm.
So, I think having those combo attacks where it was like L1,
Dude.
triangle, circle, adding those elements in there for Peter, but obviously he wouldn't have the Venom
Venom Miles.
powers,
Yeah.
but he could do, web combos or utilize his fighting abilities or the surrounding to just make it more entertaining because you go back and play the remastered version and it's very repetitive. You're just kicking and punching and jumping and that there's not a lot to differentiate, whereas
Hmm.
you could Venom punch and then Venom throw and then Venom do the Venom
Yeah.
explosion or whatever the title is. I
Hmm.
mean, there was just so much to have fun with, and obviously with the camouflage it just allowed you to really play around and kind of not do the same thing twice. So
Yeah.
it's there's a lot to grow in that regard, and depending on what suit you're using, there could be some interesting combos. And imagine rocking the Iron Spider suit and then being
Yes.
able to truly do some epic combos with that suit with those like multi combo finishers.
For sure. And that's the thing that stood out the most is that, damn, Miles. Why would I want to play as Peter Parker when I could play as Miles, who has
I
the
hear
Venomized
you.
powers, who has the camo? Today I was actually filming a video for Spider-Man Miles Morales doing a side mission, and I was doing some stealth gameplay, and it required me to hop into camouflage and sneak past enemies. You can't do that with Peter. So
Yep.
there's just so much more you can do with Miles, and I think this makes things very interesting moving forward for just the character of Miles Morales, because we saw how big that movie was back in 2018 with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse winning the best animated picture at the Oscars, and it was a fan favorite movie. For me, it's my personal favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. So that was Miles Morales' debut on the big screen. This is Miles Morales' debut on the gaming scene, and people are calling it the greatest superhero game of all time.
Well deserved.
So yeah, exactly, well deserved. So now moving forward, Brad, how does this game knocking it out of the park for the character of Miles Morales, and man, just being from a minority, being Hispanic, and seeing the Hispanic representation in Spider-Man Miles Morales was just so beautiful. It's something I never
They
thought I
nailed
would
it.
see. There's that mission where we saw it in the gameplay demo where Miles and Genki are walking through like a little what seems to be a little festival. It's
Yep.
it's Rio's rally, and you hear like Mark Anthony playing in the background, and they're dancing to salsa music, they're dancing bachata, and hearing Miles speak Spanish. It's something I never thought I would see in a superhero game. So
So cool.
tips off to Insomniac for just really just diving deep into really representing both the African American community and the Hispanic community in this game. That's something
I
I
it,
really
it
wanted to
was the
address.
most inclusive game I've seen. Well
For sure.
beyond just that, but you saw same-sex couples, you
Yeah.
saw people who suffer from disabilities.
Yeah.
The Haley character was one of
Yeah.
my favorites the whole
Yeah.
game.
Where he's
She
communicating with her through sign language.
and that I know from you want to feel like you're heard and seen, and having those elements in the game. Like I said, it was the most inclusive game
Hmm.
where everybody felt like they were featured, and
Yeah.
that's what we want, and that's what I think Hollywood's trying to do a
Yeah.
better job of. And it was really great to see, and I hats off to Insomniac and those guys over there for just taking the time and effort to doing it. And, we need to be a more inclusive place. And I'm happy to see that certain elements of the industry are really making that a priority.
Yeah, and dude, I was playing again. I was playing today, making videos for Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I was doing the side missions that are all kind of like located in Harlem, and it did such a great job. It did way better job than the first game in making Spider-Man feel like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yep.
Spider-Man is Harlem's hero in this game. And, you see Spider-Man having so many different connections with the guy that owns Spider-Cat, with Haley, the girl who he communicates with through sign language. He has relationships with so many different people that have like local businesses in Harlem to truly make Spider-Man what he is, which is the friendly neighborhood hero. And they just did such a good job, man. Just representing Miles, the cultures that he represents, and just the character of Spider-Man. So now moving forward, Brad, I wanted to ask you, I think we kind of came to this decision already, but do you think Spider-Man Miles Morales is better than its predecessor, Spider-Man PS4?
Without question. Without question. I agree with you. The story isn't as strong. Only, I think, because the villains. Spider-Man PS4 came out with the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
And you're not just going to top that easily.
Yeah.
So they came out with a bang and they dropped the hammer. But, then Miles comes out and you're just like, okay, like cool, but you're not going to beat the Sinister Six. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the only thing that it really suffered from, not having those big threats. That obviously the boss battles in the first game were just iconic, and seeing all those characters, and they were done so well and were so unique and featured as such that, that I think that's the only thing that hurt Miles in that game. But aside from that, like, the detail that they put into web swinging, the combos that you could do while you were flying through the air, and just, that it wasn't the same, flip, and then, it was literally like contorting the body and just different swinging motions and flying. It was just like so well done. And so yeah, without question, it's better than Spider-Man PS4. And it's not easy to say because that game was and still is phenomenal, but it just shows you what Insomniac accomplished with this next chapter in this story.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. For me personally, Spider-Man PS4 just holds a special place in my heart
100%.
Because, that was something that was just so fresh and it was so out of nowhere. Like, we're coming into Spider-Man Miles Morales, we knew this game was going to be amazing coming off of the heels of the first one.
100%.
But the first one, it was something that was completely new from a completely different studio. And we had high expectations for it. And it took those expectations and exceeded them by 10. Yeah. So that's another thing that was a really good point that you brought up earlier, is that the villains of the first game, they came out with the Sinister Six. Peter's relationship with Otto, for me, is just what carried that game and that story. Seeing Peter and Otto work side by side as regular human beings, and then seeing their lives kind of interact with Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus. It was just such a beautiful, emotional story. And
agreed.
That's something that I think they did really well, or try to replicate really well in Spider-Man Miles Morales, because the main villain of this game is the Tinker. And if I just tell you, all right, the main villain of a Spider-Man Miles Morales game is going to be the Tinker, not many people are going to be hyped. But they took the character of the Tinker and they completely revolutionized the character. So like that, it fit the story. You felt the emotional weight of the relationship between both Miles and Finn, and it heated up so well. And it
was really personal. Exactly. And that's what made it really made it hit. And,
exactly.
Your point on the, Dr. Octopus, Otto Octavius connection in the first one, he had been Spider-Man for almost 10 years at that point.
Yeah.
So also it would make sense that the first Miles game is him just getting his feet wet. So the villains at the time are not as big. It was great to see Rhino and Prowler to an extent. So, but this game was about Miles becoming Spider-Man.
Yeah, and you felt that. You felt that. I feel like this is kind of like a Tom Holland Spider-Man scenario, where it's like his villains aren't really his villains yet.
Yeah.
Like we saw Rhino and Miles go head to head at the beginning, and it wasn't he wasn't Miles's villain. He was Peter's
Yeah.
villain. That's why Peter was
Yep.
dealing with Rhino while
Yep.
Miles was handling the other goons. But
Yep.
then as the story develops, Rhino becomes much more of a Miles Morales villain. And I'm glad that they used Rhino and they brought him back in this game, because I thought that they
Yep.
needed to bring back at least one villain from
Somebody.
the old game.
Yep.
And they really utilized Rhino really, really well. And I think moving forward, I think there's just so much more room for Miles to grow as a character, for him to continue to evolve and learn from Peter. And, you know, looking down the line, seeing how successful this game was and how it's resonating with fans, I think down the line, they're definitely going to explore with a Spider-Verse, because think about it. They've already done a Sinister Six. They did Miles. They gave Miles his game. In the next game, we got Venom, Lizard, Green Goblin. After that post-credit scene, it seems like they're bringing in Venom, Lizard, and Green Goblin. So after that, looking forward past that, you got to go Spider-Verse. And I think in the next game, they're going to test out that multiplayer aspect, because they have to, in order to amp it up compared to what they've done in the past. So I think in the next game, they're going to test out that multiplayer aspect. And then down the line, we're going to see possibly a Spider-Gwen game. Or maybe a Spider-Man 2099. Who knows? There's so much they can do with it, because Spider-Man is just that big of a character. Spider-Man doesn't need the MCU. He can hold his own universe on his own, because he's just that big and that good.
I agree with you on that point, but I will say, when you put the Avengers Tower in the middle of New York City, and you have the Wakandan embassy, and you have,
it would
Bleecker
be nice to
Street.
see other heroes.
Yeah, they don't have to be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But after playing Avengers, coming off the heels of Spider-Man PS4, it was. I enjoyed Avengers, but I missed that free roam element of Spider-Man PS4, right?
Yeah.
So having that opportunity to be Doctor Strange and potentially fly around New York City and play with him for a little bit, or have him be just a character that you can run around and do tasks with, I think would be awesome. But at the end of the day, it is a Spider-Man game. But when you put those elements in the game, and you also have characters referencing those elements, sooner or later, we have to see them incorporated to some extent.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think one of the things that I think really kind of affects the future of this game and this universe moving forward is what most people interpret to be a failure that was the Avengers game. Marvel's Avengers, I really enjoyed the game. Brad, you really enjoyed Marvel's Avengers. But, recently it came out that the game wasn't profitable. It's losing all of its players. So if we really look at all of the cards on the table, Marvel's Avengers wasn't what it should have been. It was a loss in a lot of ways financially. So now moving forward, taking this Avengers IP, of course, Square Enix is still going to be doing their things with Marvel's Avengers, but the chances of that game getting a sequel aren't very high. So now what does Marvel Games do with the Avengers IP? Well, you already have a super successful Spider-Man franchise going on at Insomnia Games in which the Avengers exist in that universe.
Yes, they do.
And it's not just the Avengers, it's Daredevil, it's Doctor Strange, it's Black Panther, it's all of these.
Everybody.
It's everybody. It's everybody. So I think now moving forward, I think for sure they have to be having at least some form of conversation around introducing, not even having them playable, just having them there, having them possibly help out Peter, since Peter has those connections because he's been Spider-Man for so long now.
Yeah.
Just having a hero show up, and then that could lead to its own spin-off game.
Yeah, the spin-off game is where I was kind of going with it. I mean, I think, once again, the open world aspect where there really are no ceilings or walls. You really are able to go anywhere. I mean, even in this game, you went in buildings, like in stores and through buildings during gameplay. So the possibilities are endless, and having a cookie cutter ability to create these characters and give them their own universe, even if it takes place on the same map, tell their own stories and allow them to explore that and do side missions and the costumes and uniforms and things of that nature, suits. We saw the success of Iron Man VR, which got great reviews. But once again, it's like to have that open world gameplay, like Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight was very successful. Same kind of thing. Open world. Spider-Man, open world, great success. So I would like to see that route be taken. So we'll see what happens.
For sure. And now continuing on the trend of Spider-Man, guys, make sure to duet this content. Make sure to engage. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man Miles Morales? And what was your experience like playing the game? Me and Brad both loved it. But now it's time to continue talking about Spider-Man. Just not in the games, in the movies. Brad, a couple of days ago, rumors dropped that, I can't believe I'm saying this, Alfred Molina, the original Dr. Octopus, is on set right now in Atlanta filming scenes for Spider-Man 3. Brad, we've heard about these rumors for quite some time now, and now they are getting amped up even more. So, again, we're not here to confirm anything. We're just here to talk about rumors and speculate. But exactly. Brad, what are your thoughts about the potential? What are your thoughts about the possibility of Alfred Molina coming back for Spider-Man 3?
Look, we've talked about this, about it looking very much like a Spider-Verse type film. Rumors of Andrew and Toby and Jamie Foxx now sort of maybe confirmed. There's just, I recently saw my boy Brandon Davis had an interview with Jamie Foxx, and he asked him about it. And Jamie kind of smirked and laughed and shrugged it off and said, anything's possible. And it wasn't like a diss, like, no, it's not happening, but who knows? It was like it's happening. And that's all I'll say about it. So I'm excited to see how this comes together. Is he coming from a different universe, or is he Doc Ock in this universe? It's just, there's so much potential. But if Toby's coming back, having that round 2 of that fight would be iconic and just really cool. Because once again, if you're bringing in Electro from Andrew's universe, with hopefully Andrew involved, and you're bringing Doc Ock from Toby's universe, Tom Holland's Spidey has not experienced those two villains. So he's going to need help from somebody who's familiar with the situation to hopefully get him through without being killed. So that's where that makes it very fun and interesting, where these guys could appear and literally rip Peter apart, and then hopefully he has some help.
Yeah, and if we just look at the people that Tom Holland's Spidey has faced, he's faced Vulture, he's faced Mysterio. Bro, I'm sorry, when you're dealing with Electro, that is not an illusion, Peter. That is not an illusion. And man, I'm just so excited to see how all of this is coming together, because again, we don't know if Alfred Molina is in this movie, but if these rumors, hypothetically speaking, if these rumors turn out to be true and Alfred Molina is coming back to play Doc Ock, there's a part of me that's extremely excited, but there's also a part of me that's kind of worried, because he had such a great arc in Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is one of the greatest Spider-Man films of all time. A lot of people have it as one of their favorite superhero movies of all time. So, and in that movie, Otto Octavius wasn't really a bad guy. He was just trying to do the right thing. He was more of a victim than he was a bad guy. True. So now having him come back for a round 2, it's going to be interesting to see how they bring him back, because he died in Spider-Man 2. But again, with the multiverse, like we've said, and like to quote Jamie Foxx, anything is possible.
It's true.
So Brad, what do you think are the odds that we actually see Alfred Molina in this movie? Because it just goes in line with everything we've been talking about over here on Supes Disputes. We've been talking about if they're going to bring back Andrew and Toby, and they're assembling him with Tom Spidey, why not assemble a Multiverse Sinister Six, where you have Tom's Spidey villains, Vulture, Mysterio, people like that, Kraven, Scorpion, and then you also have Jamie Foxx's Electro, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, who knows, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Anything is possible, and I think if you're going to assemble the 3 different Spider-Men, that is the way to do it, to bring together a Multiverse Sinister Six.
Yeah, that would be unprecedented, because we haven't really seen that come to fruition across all 3 Spider-Men. So it would be exciting to see that on the big screen. And obviously with the universe that Marvel has built, it would just add to the legacy and the storytelling. So I'm excited. I would love to see more Alfred Molina. I would love to see more Doc Ock. I would love to see Doc Ock with the technology that exists today. They were ahead of their time when when he was filming and doing that character. But now with the technology, man, I think it would just be insane to see what kind of stunts and fight sequences and things of that nature. So I'm excited. It looks more and more promising for a Spider-Verse-esque film by the day.
Yeah.
And like
There's
we
no doubt
said,
about it.
we still haven't had any official announcement regarding Andrew or Toby, but I would not be surprised if we end the year on a very high note with the promise from Sony that we will be getting a teaser of sorts in regards to Spider-Man 3 by the end of this month.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to talk about because it's December. It's go time. The Sony executives something for Spider-Man 3 this month. And with that being said, Brad, what do you think we should expect from this first look? We don't know if it's going to be a trailer, if it's a teaser, if it's a press release of what this movie is going to be about. What do you think we should expect from this Spider-Man 3 first look?
I would not be surprised if it's very similar to what we saw with James Gunn's Suicide Squad, where it's all BTS, where it's, interviews, talking about the project. That would be a great way to announce certain people's involvement with the project. But yeah, I think it's going to be more BTS in discussion rather than an actual trailer. If it is a teaser trailer, it's going to be literally nothing. Like they haven't really shot anything to even form a trailer of any kind. But even if it's Tom in his suit atop of a building and it's the title, that counts. But I just feel like they have the opportunity, especially with it being, I'm assuming around the time of CCXP, that it's going to be a more elaborate kind of James Gunn Suicide Squad presentation of what to expect for this film.
Yeah, so for me, I don't think we're going to get to see even that much because we have to put this into perspective. This movie is this movie's a year away from coming out.
Yeah.
So I do think there's going to be a major announcement. I do think with all of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes of this movie, they have to just drop one nugget that's going to send the fans into spiral and have everyone talking about what's going on behind the scenes of Spider-Man 3. And if the rumors are true and Alfred Molina is on set right now filming scenes for Spider-Man 3, that means that they could have footage to throw him into a little teaser for Spider-Man 3. So I just think there's so much going on behind the scenes of this movie. And I think Sony is going to drop a major bomb with this first look. But again, we're not going to get too much because this movie is still a year away. I think it's just going to be something that they announce, a little teaser that they drop to let us know the basics. Give us a look at Tom's new suit for Spider-Man 3 because we know he's going to get a new suit. There's money to be made. Give us a new look at Tom's suit in Spider-Man 3.
I love the red and black suit, man.
I love it too, Brad. You know how I feel. It's my favorite Spider-Man suit ever, bro.
Look at it. Same. Look at it like this, though, right? So imagine they had a reveal trailer video, and they're like, here to talk about it is Tom Holland, Spider-Man. Or they say, here to talk about it is Spider-Man. And instead of Tom Holland, it's Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire. They didn't say Tom Holland. They said, here's Spider-Man to talk about the new film. And that is your intro to whether they're involved in this film or not. Obviously, we're speculating. We don't know. Nothing's been confirmed. But just being creative and wishful thinking, if you will. It's very exciting. And I will say this. I know you're going to have a stroke. But, dude, as the days go by, and we're already, dude, Alfred Molina already got dropped, right?
Bro, we know Electro's confirmed, Doctor Strange is confirmed.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like all these things keep getting dropped. I mean, look at all that's been released with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. And that's not official stuff. That's like people on set capturing photos around New York. Like they're going to have to, that's what I'm saying. They're going to have to make an announcement if Andrew and Toby are involved sooner rather than later before it gets leaked. Because that's not something you want to get leaked.
At all. And I think they're going to do it with this announcement. I think they are going to announce that Toby and Andrew are coming back because you can't have the announcement of Toby and Andrew be from a couple set pictures. I'm sorry, you just cannot have that.
From some random Twitter account.
You cannot fumble that announcement.
That's what I'm saying. So like if I were handling this announcement, I would produce a reveal trailer
Yeah.
piece that would make it a fun way, kind of like how Marvel has done it in the past, where Vision's eyes open and you're like, there you go, he's confirmed. These subtle little references, even if it's a silhouette, of
Yeah.
a character in the
Just letting us
background.
know that they're coming.
Yeah, it could literally be Toby's suit laying on his bed or something like that, where you're like, okay, you
Yeah.
know. So I can't wait. You know how much I love Spider-Man 2, so I'm excited to see what they end up doing with this, because it could be one of the greatest superhero films, rivaling Endgame if it's done correctly with all those characters.
Man, and it seems like it's shaping. We're gonna talk about this a bit later with what Warner Brothers is doing, with HBO Max, and trying to revitalize the movie theater experience and trying to get people back into theaters. But man, with a movie like Spider-Man 3 where we could potentially see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland assemble on the big screen as the three different Spider-Men, you want to get people back into theaters? Make that announcement.
Big time.
And again, that movie doesn't come out till December 2021. So there's still a lot of time for things to clear up in terms of just COVID cases and stuff like that. So you want to get people amped up, ready to return to theaters come December 2021? Announce that at the end of December 2020. Start rattling the cages, because Brad, when that movie comes out, me and you are going to be sitting together, paramedics on standby. I might have to be strapped in, just because I might throw a few elbows and might jump forward when Andrew Garfield gets on screen. So you want to get the fans hyped, and you really want to revitalize this movie theater experience in this industry as a whole after the amount of hits it's taken this year. Make this movie and make that announcement December 2020. So I couldn't be more excited for what Sony and Marvel have in store for our first look for Spider-Man 3. We're going to get that title announcement. And again, Brad, me and you have talked about the title for Spider-Man 3. And the reason that they haven't dropped the title for this movie yet is because, very similar to Endgame, this movie is going to tell us what this movie is going to be it's going to tell us what it's going to be about. And I think that has to do with the multiverse and seeing Andrew and Toby come into the mix. So we're going to get the teaser. We're going to get the Andrew and Toby announcement, because God, if they're not in this movie, with all the talks and all the rumors and all the cards lining up, man, what a gut punch would that be? But whatever Sony has in store with Marvel, it's going to be huge. I think Spider-Man 3 is going to be the biggest Spider-Man film of all time. And that's not me saying it's going to be the greatest, but I definitely think they're taking risks, and it's going to be the biggest. So with that being said, guys, let me know what you think we're going to see in the first look for Spider-Man 3 come December 2020, which I'm guessing
we're here, baby. We're here.
We're here. We're ready. Sony, Marvel, let's go. But anyways, to continue talking about all of the goodies Marvel has in store, some big things are happening behind the scenes with this Hawkeye series. Set photos dropped yesterday, and the news dropped. The official confirmation dropped 2 days ago that Haley Steinfeld has been cast as Kate Bishop. Couldn't be more excited for that. And then yesterday, set photos dropped of Haley Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner side by side working together in the heart of New York City. And oh my gosh, the set photos look freaking amazing. Brad, what are your thoughts on Haley Steinfeld being confirmed to play Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series?
She's talented. That's like one thing I have to say across the board, whether it's music or acting. She's obviously been in massive franchises, whether it's Pitch Perfect or the Transformers series, with the Bumblebee film. Just she's talented, and I think she is absolutely perfect for Kate Bishop. And obviously, from the first looks, from an aesthetic standpoint, she looks phenomenal. So I can't wait to see what they do with this character. But to me, man, I don't know what it was, but the Falcon and Winter Soldier set photos for me didn't initially hit as like, wow, the universe is expanding.
Yeah.
But when you see Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld next to Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye, I'm like, okay, like this is what Disney Plus is going to do for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is truly expand it and give it extra added layers and added storytelling and fill in blanks that were left unanswered, right? So I think that's the most exciting thing about this. And once again, like we have WandaVision coming in January, which I think is going to impact the MCU moving forward. So there a lot of good stuff, man. I can't wait. And yeah, shout out to Haley. Super excited for her.
Shout out to Haley. Welcome to the Marvel family and keep doing your thing. She is so talented. I loved her in Pitch Perfect.
Yep.
And man, seeing what she did with Bumblebee and revitalizing that Transformers franchise, it was phenomenal. I can't wait to see if she has a future in Transformers, but I just know she has a future in Marvel. And I'm excited
Yes,
to
she
see her
does.
play some Kate Bishop because I think she's so perfect for the role. She has the talent, she has the looks, and seeing those set photos of her working alongside Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, it just gets me so
Look,
excited.
she has a lot of depth to her as far
Hmm.
as an actress. So I
Yeah.
mean, she crushed Dickinson, right? Crushed that Apple TV Plus show. So
Hmm.
I think, you know, she has the depth to play any character. And a character like Kate Bishop that has a lot of swag and emotion to her and badassery, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think she's gonna crush it, and she's got the look, and she's got that energy, and the chops to make it happen. So, I think we're in good hands, and I think seeing her next to Renner is gonna be really cool.
Dude, and I think they're going to make her like I'm just so excited to see her take on the mantle of Hawkeye because I think they're going to make her even more badass of a Hawkeye than, Clint Barton's Hawkeye. Because for the most part, in the MCU, Hawkeye has been a supporting character. He hasn't gotten the spotlight. He's getting that in his own Disney Plus series, but this series is more focused on him passing down the mantle. So they're
Bingo.
going to build up her character even more so than they have for the character of Clint Barton's Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So another thing too is that I'm super excited to see them take on like the stereotypic like Logan kind of story where it's kind of like mentor teaching everything he knows to apprentice. I do think we're going to see Hawkeye die by the end of this series because Hawkeye, in a very similar way to Iron Man in the MCU, he's always going to find a reason to come back. I mean, how many times has he retired and returned? So
Yeah,
I think we're
exactly.
going to, and on top of that, from the set pictures, Hawkeye has a hearing aid. So we know he's going to be deaf or losing his hearing in this series. And I think we're going to see him die by the end of the series. And once he does die, the character of Kate Bishop, we're going to feel so connected to her character and she's going to be built up so much that moving forward, we're going to be so emotionally invested in her character. And I think she's just going to be a beast.
Well, what's great about Kate Bishop too is with the recent announcement that Yelena is going to also be in Hawkeye, which is Black Widow's sister.
Mm-hmm.
I think she might have a big role in helping train Kate as well. So if you think about it, it's going to be a really interesting, cool
Interesting.
dynamic to have Yelena, aka Black Widow,
Mm-hmm.
train Kate Bishop as well as Hawkeye, who was
Yeah.
obviously very close with Natasha's Black Widow. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna be a really cool dynamic, and um, yeah, I think we're really lucky to see this kind of come to life, and I think the hearing obstacle that Hawkeye is going to face is going to make the show very interesting, and I think they could kind of explore that storyline, which they haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that might be one of the reasons why he's hanging it up.
Yeah.
And also knowing Hawkeye, I think it's going to be his downfall because he's probably going to try to do too much
Mm-hmm.
and end up probably sacrificing himself in a similar way,
Yeah.
like Natasha.
For sure. And again, you mentioned Yelena coming to this Hawkeye series. It just got confirmed today. We heard the rumors a while back or a couple of days ago. And now today it's officially been confirmed that Florence Pugh is coming to reprise her role as Yelena, Black Widow's sister, who we still haven't met, but we're going to meet in Marvel's upcoming Black Widow movie. But seeing Yelena in this Hawkeye series is going to be huge because I think that lends itself to the role that this Hawkeye series might partake in a Black Widow movie. Like, does Yelena already know Hawkeye? Is Hawkeye going to be in the Black Widow movie? Because we've heard Scarlett Johansson confirmed it herself that we're going to see what happened when she referred to Hawkeye about Budapest in the first Avengers movie. We're going to see that go down in the Black Widow movie. So is Hawkeye in this movie? Brad, what do you think are the chances that we see Hawkeye in the Black Widow movie?
I would not be surprised, especially from that comment from Scarlett. Um, it makes sense. I don't think he'll have a major role, but I
Yeah,
think it would
same.
be an awesome cameo. I would not be surprised to see other characters as well. So it would be really cool once again to fill that gap of time that we know nothing about and kind of see who and what happened during that time. Um, so yeah, I would not be surprised if Hawkeye's in it. I would not be surprised if other people are in it as well, whether that be Cap or
Yeah.
Tony. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I think it could be really interesting. So, as a fan, you sit back and you're just excited with the future of what's on the slate, man, because there's
Mhm.
just too much to be excited about.
Yeah, and I think now with Yelena's involvement in the Hawkeye series, because she's the new Black Widow moving forward, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that dynamic between Hawkeye and Yelena, how that works.
Yeah.
Because, like, does Yelena even know that, like, Nat sacrificed herself for Hawkeye? How would she? How do you think she would react to that? I don't think she's going to react to that very well.
Yeah,
So,
these are once again. I think depending on the ending and end credit scene of Black Widow, I
mhm.
think will tell us a lot about when and where this takes place, how it all comes about. Like, do we see Kate Bishop in Black Widow? Like, it's a question, you know? Like, is the Hawkeye series going to start off with Kate Bishop already with Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Like, it's going to be an interesting dynamic where I don't think anybody can predict at this point which direction Marvel's going to go, but just know it's in the right direction.
For sure. Marvel has, again, all of these things planned out years in advance. They have a plan till 2025. So
At least.
yeah. So seeing all of these things just seeing them start to unfold, all of these cards, all of these surprises that have been in the works for so long, but we just haven't known about it. It's amazing. I couldn't be more excited for this Hawkeye series. And again, with there not being an Avengers movie coming anytime soon, this is how they're going to keep this universe fresh by involving so many different characters in all of these Disney Plus series. So now moving forward, we talked about all of the goodies going over at Marvel. Now it's time to talk about what I think is one of the biggest, most impactful moves that is affecting the movie industry, and that's the move that HBO Max decided to make today. They announced not only is Wonder Woman dropping on Christmas Day in theaters and on HBO Max, but they are releasing pretty much all of their 2021 movies, both in theaters and on HBO Max, the same day. This, of course, includes James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. One thing that I found really interesting was that they didn't say that the Batman was coming to HBO Max and in theaters the same day.
That's a good point.
That's not happening. Same thing with Black Adam as well. So they're taking the chance on Wonder Woman. They're taking a chance on the Suicide Squad, and this move in general, I think it just shifts the movie going experience. Like if they can find a way to make this profitable, just as profitable as their model was before with releasing movies in theaters, but finding a way to find a balance where they can make money off of HBO Max subscriptions and maximize that while also banking in on the money made in theaters. That's going to change the future of the movie going experience, because then you're going to see Marvel do something similar or Disney do something similar if it does work with HBO Max and Warner Brothers is profitable and is successful with their decision. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Black Widow in theaters on the same day and then on Disney Plus for like $20, where you can buy the movie on Disney Plus and watch it at the courtesy of your home. So, Brad, what are your thoughts on this move by HBO Max and Warner Brothers? Because I think it shifts the future of the movie going experience.
It's a game changer. It's been something that has been rumored to happen eventually. I think obviously with the developments of COVID and the impact it's had on the industry, it's kind of forced everybody's hand
Yeah.
to an extent where you saw Disney kind of experiment with that with Mulan.
Yeah.
I, for one, I worked in a movie theater growing up. I go to the movies 2 to 3 times a week when it's
Mhm.
not obviously a global pandemic. So I will not be changing how I operate. Of course, there are films that, I'm not going to break a leg to go see in theaters, which I will enjoy viewing from home.
Yeah.
But for the most part, man, I see almost everything in theaters. So, like,
Yeah.
for me, this doesn't really change anything other than maybe I go see it in theaters and then I watch it again at home shortly after for like a second viewing. But, like,
Mhm.
I think it's going to impact the older demo or people who are
For
just
sure.
homebodies
Yeah.
who are very comfortable watching things at home. Some people don't like going to the movies for whatever reasons. Some people don't care to go to the movies,
Yeah,
which
they,
is
they
fine.
wait till it comes out on DVD to watch the movie.
Exactly. So like for those people, they're thrilled. They get to see these movies. They don't have to wait. They don't have to have the opportunity of it getting spoiled. But like I said, for me, I'm going to still go to the movies when it's safe to do so. But I just hope it doesn't impact the theatrical experience where you'll see all the movie theaters shutting down. And
Yeah.
already Deadline reported that the movie theater stocks have just plummeted since,
Hmm.
and that's not great news. But I also think you'll see streaming services like Amazon and Netflix potentially announce theatrical releases for their TV shows and films as well.
Hmm.
So I think there's just going to be a balance and an influx of content, where it's like it's up to you how you want to view it. If you want to go to the theater and sit down and make a event and experience out of it, go for it. If you want to sit at home in your gym shorts and do nothing, that's on you as well. So I there's just so much that you can do with it. But I just, as long as the theaters stay and that they're
Yeah.
not forced to close,
Hmm.
I'm 100% for it.
Same.
Because
Same.
at the end of the day, it's all about content, right? We
Yeah.
all want to we all want to produce and generate content, and
Hmm.
obviously that's a big part of who I am and what I'm doing, what I am going to be doing for the very foreseeable future. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's just another way to consume content. But here's the other thing. Here's my rebuttal to that. Everybody's been stuck in their house for a year. So you're telling me if these films drop and I have to watch it on HBO Max or go into the theater after being stuck in the house for a year,
Yeah.
I'm going to the movies. I'm out. Like, get me out of this house. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So I think it could balance out where people are going to the movies more than ever because they've been stuck in their house. So there's going to be a nice balance, but it'll be interesting to see how everything pans out.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, and whether this is a good move or not, we have to give props to HBO Max and the people over at Warner Brothers for taking this risk, because this is a huge risk. This could either be really bad for Warner Brothers or really good for Warner Brothers. But drastic times call for drastic measures. And I think there was just everyone was at a standstill in terms of just like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sony, Paramount, Universal. Everyone was kind of at a standstill waiting for someone to make a move. And Warner Brothers just made that move. And it's going to change everything moving forward, because if they are successful, then Disney's going to copy the same thing and do something very similar. So like that, they're successful with their own projects, and Universal and Sony and all of these other major studios. So I'm super excited to see that Warner Brothers is taking that risk. Again, they're going all in on HBO Max. The only thing that kind of worries me is that, with HBO Max right now, I don't understand why they can't keep their movies on their own streaming service. Like, why is Batman versus Superman leaving HBO Max? I don't understand that. So another question I have for the people at HBO Max is, are they going to keep the movies that they're promising are coming to HBO Max on HBO Max? Because, I don't understand the logic behind having your own streaming service and then you can't even keep your movies on the damn streaming service.
Well, I think you have to think about, HBO Max came about very quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and also these licensing deals might have been already in play where Batman vs Superman was already licensed to Amazon or another service where it's like, yeah, it's got to go to Hulu for the next 6 months and then it'll come back. But it'll be interesting. I'm with you. I'm curious to see if they end up staying or it's a kind of limited window like we're seeing.
Yeah.
But like for me, I if it's safe to do so, which it's not looking promising for me to go to the movies and watch Wonder Woman 1984, I'm gonna have to watch it at home. But you bet if when it's safe to do so, I'm gonna be in the theater,
Same.
whether it's a month, 2, 6, 10 afterwards, to see Wonder Woman 1984 in theaters.
Hmm. For
That's
sure.
just a fact. So whether I saw it already or not, I'm gonna go experience like Godzilla versus Kong, you're telling me that's a streaming release? No way. That's IMAX, 100%.
Sold out
My butt
crowd.
will, yeah, my butt will be in the theater. So it's just, we got to roll with what's happening. I think it will generate revenue. Obviously, people are going to want to watch these films.
Yeah.
But they also got to be careful of people recording and leaking, and they better have a plan in place, because when you literally drop this stuff, the pirating and things of that
Yeah.
nature, it's going to just increase tenfold. But I mean, the slate's incredible, and depending on how quickly, God willing, by summer, I think we could be in a good place. We'll see.
We'll definitely see. Again, the future is so uncertain, but if the one thing is for certain is that people are taking risks, and Warner Brothers just did that with their decision to drop all of their 2021 movies on HBO Max as well as in theaters on the same day. Again, if this does prove to be successful, it's something that's never going to leave the movie theater industry beyond COVID. So props to HBO Max and Warner Brothers for making that move. Brad, today we talked about so much over here on SUPES Disputes. We talked about Spider-Man Miles Morales. We talked about Alfred Molina potentially being in Spider-Man 3 and all the stuff going on behind the scenes at Spider-Man 3. We talked about all of the stuff going on with the Hawkeye series. Excited things happening over there. And then we also talked about the major move that HBO Max and Warner Brothers decided to make today. That's going to be really big for the movie industry moving forward. So any final thoughts today before we end our episode of SUPES Disputes?
It's great to be back, man. It's great to be back.
Yes, sir. And guys, with us talking about Miles Morales today, I wanted to take a second. I'm sure you guys noticed the little guy next to me on today's episode. This is
Fire.
A Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse figure from Iron Studios. It is an absolute beauty. You guys can check it out.
Amazing.
All I'm going to say, guys, is that me and Iron Studios are going to be collaborating very, very soon and do something very, very special where you guys can get one of these Spider-Man Miles Morales figures. But with that being said, make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to hit that bell notification on my channel and turn on post notifications on my Instagram. And just stay tuned over there on TikTok, because big things are coming with SUPES and Iron Studios. Shout out to Iron Studios for sending me that. It's an absolutely beautiful figure. You guys can see it. And, oh, Miles! And, it's just a beautiful addition to the setup. Guys, that's another thing I probably should say too. I am building a new setup. So like that, when me and Brad are over here talking about SUPES Disputes, talking about all of the awesome goodness, you guys don't see my bed and my wall. You guys see an actual setup with all of these figures that I'm getting from Sideshow Collectibles and Iron Studios. So make sure to stay tuned for that, because I'm excited to drop that room tour for you guys. But with that being said, we've talked about so many crazy things on today's show. Make sure to let us know in the comment section your thoughts on every one of the topics we discussed. And make sure to duet the content over there on TikTok and engage, because this is a show for the fans, by the fans. With that being said, thank you guys for joining us on SUPES Disputes. It was a pleasure to be back, and I'm excited for the next episode and all of the stuff coming our way. Thank you guys for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time.